We figured out some technical stuff
There we
here.
go.
Yeah, so Eric, so I'm excited to meet you again. So all this, what you said last time, I cut it in parts and listened to it, and I can write a book about it.
I'm on that. I'm trying.
So I think in a few interviews we will make some little brochures and larger book. The first volume, the second volume.
Let's go. Let's go.
So I prepared a few questions. So we have about
Sure.
20 minutes here. So my first question is: last time you outlined your 3-point filter: remarkable client experience, personal joy, and high ticket capacity. What concrete tests or checkpoints do you use to confirm each corner before green lighting a brand new AI service idea or business idea?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So with regard to what were the words you used for the first one as far as like client experience? What did you say?
What concrete tests or checkpoints do you use to confirm
Correct. But
each?
what were I remember the 3 points of the triangle, but what word did you use to describe the first point of the triangle?
First point is remarkable client experience.
Remarkable. Yeah, great. So I learned that from Dan Cathy, the founder of a restaurant called Chick-fil-A in the States. It's a massive, massive brand. And when he taught that to me, we were in a small group. To us, it wasn't to me personally. He said, what happens is that people market when it happens the first time. Mark, M-A-R-K. So when people go to Chick-fil-A, and he bases it on what they call second mile service, but we've just indoctrinated it completely in our flow. When people go to a fast food restaurant, they expect a sandwich, fries, a drink, and moderate to poor service. And so he said what happens is when you go 1 mile, when people expect 1 mile, but you give them 2, that's remarkable. They go, wow, that's amazing. And this principle is obviously taken from scripture and the teachings of Jesus. He's a Christian guy, and so am I. And so he says when they expect a chicken sandwich and fries and a half-dirty restaurant and all this, and we give them an impeccable restaurant, and we say it's our pleasure to serve you, and then we put carnations on the table, and actually we give them a table tent, like a nicer restaurant, and we bring the food out to them. That create, they do events throughout the years, and they have like National Cow Costume Day or whatever, and daddy-daughter dates, all these things. He said people are overwhelmed because what they thought they were getting was chicken, and what they're getting is a family-centered restaurant that gives them true experiences with their family when they come. They feel seen, valued, heard, and so when they have that ascending moment where they're like, wow, this is way better than what I signed up for, they check it in their heart and go, wow, this was serious. When they remark it with their friends, they are reliving that experience in joy to say, wow, did you know about this? Like, I just had this experience. I have to tell somebody. For me, I believe joy has to be shared if it's sincere. And so it's when they're sharing it that they are remarking it, and that makes it remarkable. So our job, we can't put the words in their mouth, but what we can do is engineer the experience to make sure that they have had so much joy that they naturally want to tell other people about it. So to answer your question, that is my indicator. It's not a specific data point. It's based on product market fit, so that when I am serving, let's say in AI, specifically your question, let's say I build something for construction industry, for a dentist, for a med spa, for a roofer, for a local restaurant. I would recommend 10 plus clients before we make these kinds of decisions. But afterward, I'm looking intrinsically to see how much joy I've caused in them. What kind of experience did they have with our product or with our service or with something about us that causes them to want to leave a review? In my coaching, where you and I have met inside of our community, I am measuring my success based on the quality and number of reviews, because if people aren't willing to remark an experience they had with me, that means I didn't deliver to them a significant enough experience that they would need to talk about it. But if they want to talk about it with other people, that's my indicator. So I'm looking, hey, I've served these 5 industries. Which of these 5 has the most joy and is the most naturally grateful for the service or product I've given them, that getting a review, getting peer-to-peer comments, really the idea that they would share it with their peers and their friends becomes the most natural. So give you a concrete example. I just met with a young man who's got an AI agency out of Utah, and he wanted to serve accountants. That's his own business, that's his family business, and he loves it. But recently he built an AI app for a plumbing company that his brother-in-law is in. His brother-in-law went right away and told 4 or 5 of his friends, and now he has them reaching out to him. And I was like, man, follow that energy. we're not being, woo-woo about this. Like, just follow the energy. Go where you're wanted. If the plumbers are like, hey, we need your thing, don't try to force your popularity among the accountants. Go to the plumbers. Become the plumbing AI guy, because you can't fake that. And leads is the whole business. In referrals is the whole business. So if you're naturally getting referrals here based on how remarkable your experience was, those people were with you, you want to go to them. So that's the first corner. The second corner is my joy, right? So I need to care about their business. And I can learn to care about some businesses for sure, based on how they receive me. But also, I shouldn't dread having to work with somebody. Again, in the context of AI, one of our clients, coaching clients, built he built several AI, one with medical, one with med spas, and one with car dealerships. And at the end of that, he said, I went after the medical because it was high ticket. I thought what I wanted was the money. But their software tends to be antiquated. Their sales cycles are 2 and 3 months. And it's really a pain to work with the APIs. And honestly, I just didn't enjoy it. Even though I made more money over here, what I actually enjoyed the most was working with the automotive industry. And I'm like, well, there's your sign, because you're getting equal joy from both of them. They're both appreciating your product and your process. But the one you wake up wanting to work with, man, that's a pretty big deal, because some has to motivate you to get out of bed. And more importantly, motivate you to think about your customers' problems more than you think about your own. When you can begin to find an industry that's good enough, and I'm going to say a 7 out of 10 in your own personal joy, where you're like, you know what? I like working with these folks. It's not perfect. I don't believe in chasing your passion in that sense, but like, I enjoy serving them enough that I can absolutely dig in. Man, that's the sweet spot. When you find yourself naturally thinking about your customers' problems when you're not at work, because you just enjoy it. And then the third thing is high ticket. And by high ticket for me, I mean, that changes obviously with the market capacity, but when you're selling widgets, you have this balance between, in America, what we call Walmart versus like Gucci. You have this high ticket, sell only a few of them, but you only need a few because the ticket is so high that your year is great. Whereas the low ticket stuff, you have to sell so many, you run into so much customer service and such scale that unless you can get to a huge scale, it's just not worth it. As solopreneurs or small businesses, overwhelmingly, I find high ticket is the best way. And Elon Musk is probably the best example of that. When he started Tesla, he started with an elite electric vehicle, and then has backed his way into the more approachable market where everybody can kind of afford to buy one in the US. They're not priced more than any other vehicle. That's a really great way. And the reason for that is businesses live and die on cash flow. And so you sell one thing, it's $10,000 versus something that's $1,500, and you got to go like crazy. However, I would argue that for a new AI agency like you and I are usually talking about, even a $2,500 product is high enough, because you only have to close 4 a month and to make $10,000, which seems to be the make it or break it point after taxes and everything else, at least in the States, where people need to see that kind of, $10,000 a month to survive after they paid taxes again, fees and all these other things.
So
I say survive. I shouldn't say that. It's not they need to survive. It's that's what it takes for them to quit their job. So
yeah. So thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very insightful stories, and I enjoy how you put this. Your storytelling is fantastic. And for myself, I have this goal is like 10K per month after all, within like half a year, because I see this goal, it's quite clear for me, and I think that is not too high. That is quite approachable. I see it, and I'm nearing it quite a bit, nearing this goal already. So
that last piece is completely contextual. When I meet with our clients in Bangkok or in Bali, they can survive on $1,000 a month. I'm like, that's amazing to me. $1,000 USD. So for them, $1,000 product, they only need 12 a year. I mean, so that's amazing. So that's why I say you have to base that on your market.
I pay more for the tuition of my my children. So like,
I know, me too.
So my next question is, how do you decide when a highly customized consulting engagement should stay bespoke versus when to package it as a repeatable product? It's also a problem for me because I usually provide bespoke products and I do a lot of consulting, I do a lot of meetings. That is my point that maybe restricts me.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. I had a coach years ago that told me if you put enough adjectives after your name, you're going to be one of one. Meaning you won't have any competition, right? I am, for Oleksandr, you are the #1 AI agency consultant in the Ukraine dealing with entrepreneurs and executives making more than 10K a month. Like, if I put enough adjectives after your name, you'll be the #1 guy in the world. So I think the thing that scales infinitely is care. If you can say, you have to have authority, but you also have to have empathy. And I learned that from Donald Miller years ago. If you have, by the way, incredible author, highly recommend all of his content. He lives in my city, and I see him from time to time in local coffee shops. But regardless, if you got to have authority, but you also have to have empathy. And he turned me on to this phrase. I want to say it was Toyota, maybe, who their entire marketing campaign was, "We care about your Toyota." And man, that when you can say to your client, "I care about your business," and then you have the authority to actually deliver at that level, I think that is bespoke. People pay for that. They, especially in an AI world where they're afraid of the robots as we enter the early pragmatic phase and people have some real objections, and they still want to listen right away when you say AI, but you've got a lot more work to do once you get into the sales cycle. I think the consulting position is the power position. I think becoming a strategic partner who speaks fluent AI, can deliver solutions, but primarily is there to serve their business and align it in a way that can capitalize on AI is the deal. In the beginning, and I know you and I have talked a little bit about your business, but I would say this of anybody. In the beginning, everything is bespoke because you haven't niched down. I think you only niche down as you've had enough experience. And that's because this market is so new, it doesn't exist. So for a person to just randomly say, "I'm only going to serve the real estate market," well, you better have a really good reason why. And usually that has to do with your own history, your own deep understanding of their pain points and problems, and your own current authority in that sector. In the beginning, I think it's all bespoke. I think every client, you have to relearn their business, you have to relearn their processes, relearn this. So in answer to your question, I think you start general in the beginning, and everything is just a lot of work. But as you find that triangle, and then you move towards a particular sector increasingly, and that's when you get to niche down. So for me, in my media company, I started by just singing anywhere. I played music, as you know, and put out 5 different records, a songwriter, the whole deal. In the beginning, I was just taking any promoter that could afford to pay my fee to come. But as I niched down, I played a lot of gigs, a lot of concerts where I would show up, set up with a band, I'd play 5 or 10 songs, get off stage, sell CDs, meet people, move to the next one. But then over time, I played festivals, and I'm using this as an outside example to just show the context. I began to play festivals and then eventually conferences. And conferences, I learned very quickly, had bigger budgets, but I could stay 3, 4, 5 days with the same audience, go deep with them relationally, sleep in the same hotel. I'd sell way less CDs, but actually I'd make a lot more money, and my health would increase dramatically, and most of all, meaning and purpose. Like, I just enjoyed the people I was with and I could serve them deeply, and they would have me back to their events over the course of the year. So I learned in the context of serving everybody kind of with music with the same product, I need to move over here. So eventually what that caused was the media company, the publishing company, we left the music industry technically because we weren't selling CDs and just music anymore. Now we were selling a service that was about promoting and helping the purchasing company's event to win. So that's an example of how over time you just start very broad, serving everybody that needs something in AI, and then you find out, I really like this sector. I think it starts, everything's bespoke. You're serving everybody equally, kind of as a generalist, and then you niche down, unless you have some aggregate authority in an industry already that you can capitalize on.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a very profound, deep answer. Thank you for explaining this. And I have one important thing. I hope we have small time to answer one more.
Absolutely.
So, which weekly metrics help you stay focused on the 4% of work that drives 64% of returns? And how soon do you start tracking them in a new venture?
Yeah, absolutely. How soon do I start doing what to them in a new venture?
Start tracking them in a new venture. Tracking this 4%.
So I think you should always be focused most on the thing that moves the needle most. So in the beginning, any startup, I heard Dan Martell say you go from $0 to $100,000 by yourself, and then you go from $100,000 to $1 million with a team, which I would say probably includes AI at this point. And then you go from $1 million to $10 million with processes. That line gets blurrier the farther we go with AI. But in the beginning, when you're just starting out, until you get to $100,000 a year, it's my belief you don't need to focus on anything else but cash flow. I would even say you just have to understand the AI market. Specifically, we're talking about AI, but your market enough to deliver the sale, to answer the questions, but you don't actually have to know how to do it. I can't tell you how many times in our family business, my father would be selling. He was our lead salesperson, inventing these solutions. He would have an idea with a client, know it was possible to do, but not know exactly how to do it, and come back to the office and say to my mom or the team, hey, I just sold this idea. I know it's possible. I need you guys to figure out how to do it, because cash flow is what kills businesses. If you're not making money, you don't have a business, right? And so my answer is you always focus at least on the 80-20. If you can't get to 64-4, I think 64-4 is a luxury. It's 80-20 twice for the new listener. In the beginning, it's the 20, and the 20 is cash flow. And then as you can afford it, you're outsourcing the 80. That's my answer. In the beginning of every business, your name is on every task. Let's say there's 50 tasks. Every one of them says Alexander. And your job over time is to remove your name from almost all of them. But in the beginning, you can't afford to do that. That's a cash flow problem. But again, another Dan Martell quote, if money solves it, it's not a real problem. As cash flow starts to come in, that's when you offshore that 80% as fast as you can. And the 4, when you do get to the 64 equation, you're answering that by answering this question. What is my unique value that no one else can solve? If someone else can edit videos, I ought not to be doing that. If someone else can be making phone calls, I ought not to be doing that. But as far as representing our company, our brand, going into this high-profile meeting and developing this relationship, no one else can do that. One of my mentors years ago, a guy named Michael Hyatt, said, the CEO's job is necessarily to solve problems no one else below their pay grade could have solved. If they could have, they wouldn't have needed the CEO to do it. And so that's when you get to the 4, the 64-4. And literally at that point, you're just solving problems all day. We say shaking hands and kissing babies. Like your goal kind of towards the end of the career or the pinnacle of the career is to just be the figurehead that's introducing relationships and utilizing other people's strengths and their passions to get the work done. But you're literally orchestrating and becoming a vision. That's long-term. Is that helpful? Focus on the 20% right away as cash is there, offshore to other people.
Absolutely. So I take this advice for me because I'm involved with all the processes and going on the call. So my name is signed for every even smaller deal for a couple $100 already. I'm there still.
That's right.
I'm shifting because I'm teaching my personnel. My staff is getting more qualifications, so I try to outsource more and more for that.
Yeah, and I highly recommend a book by Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time, but it's this idea. When you get overwhelmed as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it's because you're doing too much. And you're not that important. Yeah, that's just a hard word for it. Like, hey, stop doing all that. If you're needed all the time, you built a business wrong. So let's figure out a way to realign it so it doesn't need you, because at the end of the day, you can't sell it if it still needs you. You can't trust it to somebody else if it still needs you. And a lot of times what happens is we internally, unknowingly break the firewall. In America, there's this idea of the corporate veil, and you have to maintain a separate entity. Your corporation has to be different than you personally. If you are just marauding as a corporation, but it's really just you, that's illegal. And while they care about that when it comes to the finances, it's also true in the operations. I feel a lot of people can't distinguish themselves from their business because they're doing everything. And man, that is a trap. You have to build it in such a way systematically that each key piece that's not 20% for you can be put on someone else's shoulder once the budget's in place.
Yeah, so thank you for this advice and this thought. So we have a limited time today only for half an hour. So maybe you can give final wish for this, for everybody who listens to us, the best advice from Erik, what one can improve one's life within the next 30 days.
Yeah, I think clarity is king. I heard a quote one time that hopelessness comes from not having any options, but anxiety is the fruit of having tons of options, but no direction. And oftentimes we get stuck in analysis paralysis because our business is a boat. And if it's sitting like an old boat with a rudder, right? Unless it's moving, we cannot steer it. And oftentimes what happens is we sit on the dock, sit in our boat, and we're worried about the sails, and we're worried about the paint job, and we're worried about all these little things about the boat. But the boat is not The boat's not moving. It doesn't matter what color it is if it's not moving. And so I say defer to action, and action brings clarity. In the beginning, it's messy. I get it. Go sell something. Go meet with somebody. Sell it before you build it, we always say. And in action, as you're taking action, you'll go, you know what? This is not the right direction. I need to pivot. Knowing the wrong direction in the beginning is just as valuable as knowing the right direction. And when you can check off, no, it's not that way. Well, no, it was definitely not that. Oh, I'm getting a little closer. Through iteration, clarity comes and that fear starts to go away. But I meet with so many people who are just afraid to move. Go break something, move fast, make a lot of noise, and then find the signal. But if you know, it's like the old school radios. You dial it and it gets crunchy. You know, you dial it too far, oh, it's crunchy. But eventually, just little tweaks and man, it's clear. That's how we have to operate our business. But that's how we get past the fear, the anxiety. We have to take action. And as we're taking action, the clarity comes. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Erik. So it was such a pleasure to listen to you. And although I know some of the concepts, but you put it in such a nice form, with your intonation, tone of voice, and thank you. Thank you.